my house for Christmas. And I knew I'd end up in jail or the grave unless I did something drastic to change my life. Hi, my name is Angela Carter. What I'm about to share with you is hands down the most humiliating moment of my life. It was the first Christmas after my divorce, and I can still feel the heat of my face blazing fire truck red, how I felt frozen in my shame. I had spent my entire life manifesting the perfect life for everyone else, but completely ignored myself in the process. I never felt like I had the time or energy for me, even though I'd actively participated in every moment of the creation of my life. I just didn't see myself in it anymore. After my divorce, I spent months and months trying in vain to manifest an abundant life. I bought courses, followed gurus, and read countless books. I tried the law of attraction, The Secret, and guided meditation. I always ended up right where I started, Nowheresville. I realized that if I was going to actually live the life of my dreams, it was up to me to manifest it. No one else was going to create it for me, and no one was coming to save me. As you'll see, on a whim, I took a journey halfway around the world, desperately trying to end the humiliating pain of manifesting nothing but scarcity in my relationships, in my identity, and in my finances. I'm so glad I pulled the trigger on my worldwide journey of discovery, because I discovered what was blocking a life of abundance wasn't some kind of external force like I thought. What was blocking me was actually inside me, literally stored in my body. But as I'll share in this presentation, I discovered a strange but powerful switch that cleared everything that was blocking my abundance and turned my life around so fast it made my head spin. The journey was painful at the start, but once I discovered this switch, it rocked my world. I've never felt so connected in my relationships. I've never experienced such a deep connection with my source, and I never even knew I could feel so connected to financial abundance. What I've since discovered is this simple switch, and the unlimited abundance it triggers is available to anyone. My humiliating story demonstrates how you too can discover how to rewrite your story into one of unlimited abundance, starting as soon as today. 18 months ago, I was hosting Christmas at my house, not long after my divorce from Tom. He'd been cheating on me for most of our 25-year marriage. Against my better judgment, I invited him over for Christmas for the sake of our 2 adult kids. Our oldest was Jody, a junior in college. Tom Jr. was a freshman. Typical me, I went all out to make it special, as I always did. It was so easy to slip into my role as the engineer of the perfect life for my family. I had mentally prepared myself to be cordial to my philandering husband. That night, my kids had already arrived and had been telling me all about their fall semester at school. That's when the doorbell rang. I knew it was him, so I took a deep breath and mentally put on my big girl pants. But I was not prepared for what came next. I answered the door to my ex-husband standing arm in arm with some Kim Kardashian lookalike who looked young enough to be his daughter. Her boobs were practically bursting out of her low-cut dress. "Merry Christmas," he said, holding out a bottle of wine. I stood there frozen in my humiliation and shame. Then she came in for a hug, saying, "Merry Christmas, you look so beautiful tonight." I turned around in slow motion to see my daughter with her eyes wide and her hand over her mouth. Tom Jr. was looking at her boobs, his eyes lustfully taking her in. In that moment, I knew I had to do something drastic to change my life. All I could say was, "I'm going for a drive." How had my life come to this? This emptiness, this shame, this deep pain at living a life I wanted nothing to do with. Why had I been so successful creating as perfect a life as possible for everyone else, while mine felt so empty, meaningless, and futile? Taking refuge in a Barnes & Noble Starbucks, I started wandering aimlessly around the bookstore, sipping my steaming cup of cheer. Then I found myself in the travel section. I thought I could just get on a plane and just leave. But I knew I needed something more than an escape or a break. I needed a deep reset. I needed to find myself, to like my life, to manifest the life I wanted to live in. I felt so lost. In desperation, I whispered a prayer. I don't know who I was praying to. I closed my eyes and whispered earnestly, God, I'm in serious trouble here. I truly don't know what to do. If you can, send me a sign. When I opened my eyes, I felt a small measure of peace. Then I noticed a travel book on Nepal. Inside were pictures of towering Himalayan mountains, tea houses, and elephants wading through a jungle river. I felt a tug on my sleeve. I looked down to see a cute young girl dressed in a red and white Christmas dress. Her blonde hair was in ringlets around her face, and her green eyes were staring right into mine. You should go see the elephants, she said confidently. I stood there dumbfounded. Was this the sign I'd just prayed for? I battled back and forth in my mind. I thought I was becoming a movie cliché. Unhappy middle-aged woman travels halfway around the world, finds happiness, love, and purpose, then lives happily ever after. Eat, Pray, Love was playing inside my head. But then I realized my pride couldn't go any lower. I decided right then to travel to Nepal and go see the elephants. What did I have to lose? Before I knew it, I was getting off the plane in Kathmandu. The next morning I found a cafe, ordered tea, and looked out the window at the bustling city. I couldn't believe I was halfway around the world, alone, trying desperately to improve my life. I was having serious doubts that I could discover how to manifest my dream life. I was lost in my thoughts and doubts, mesmerized by the sounds, sights, and smells of this colorful city, when there was a tug on my sleeve. Again, I turned to see a darling little boy with coal-black eyes and a shock of black hair. He had a flyer in his hand. He was pointing across the street to a hole-in-the-wall building. There was a colorful sign hanging above the door with a picture of an elephant. Go see the elephants, the little boy said, a bright smile on his face. I took the brochure from his hands and said, I'm on my way. I walked in through a beaded doorway to a dark room, incense wafting through the room. Sitting behind a desk was a sight I was not expecting. There was a middle-aged man there who I couldn't help but assume was an American. He had an American flag bandana wrapped around a cleanly shaved head. His salt and pepper beard came down to his chest. Good morning, he said with a welcoming smile. His eyes sparkled intelligence, warmth, and kindness. Hello, I stammered, just a little surprised. Not expecting to see someone like me, he asked. Well, not exactly. Not to worry, he replied. I get that all the time. Welcome to Kathmandu. Why are you here? He asked. I want to see the elephants, I said. Of course, he said, peering uncomfortably deep into my eyes. But why are you here? At that moment, I knew he wasn't asking about my travel plans. He was asking why I'd traveled halfway around the world, by myself, and why I looked like a lost puppy. In that moment, I relaxed into a realization. I had nothing to lose. My quest for finding myself, for manifesting a life I loved, for escaping my dreary life, had led me here. I'd even asked God for a sign. Then, not once, but twice, a random child had told me to go see the elephants. So, I spilled my guts. I told him everything. It felt so good to get that all off my chest. I felt liberated just telling my story to someone who truly listened. I actually felt a little freer, like my dark story didn't have as much of a hold on me anymore. But as you'll see, I was in for more, much more. Anthony then asked me just 3 questions that so radically changed my life, I hardly recognized the old me anymore. These same questions can transform your life too, helping you manifest a life you only thought was possible in the movies, a life with purpose and personal identity, deeply connected relationships, abundant health, not to mention wealth beyond your wildest dreams. The first question Anthony asked was this: have you heard of trauma stored in your cells of your body? His question took me by surprise. Stored bad memories? Sure, but I'd never heard of trauma stored in the physical body. Anthony went on to tell me about the world's #1 authority on trauma. He's a Dutch researcher named Bessel van der Kolk. His life's work is a book called The Body Keeps the